Hello everyone, welcome to Wisdom Whispers. You must be thinking, what is Wisdom Whispers? So it's an initiative to support budding professionals with invaluable insights and practical advice directly from seasoned corporate professionals. In my decently long career, I have witnessed that young professionals face a number of challenges when they are starting out. And most of them, they are unsure whom to reach out to, which resources to look at for the questions. Just to bridge that gap, I'm starting the podcast journey to guide budding professionals with the real-life corporate hacks. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm a management consulting professional with 2 decades of corporate experience. I'm currently working with a Fortune 500 company in Singapore as a director M&A. My family and friends call me an organizer, planner, and achiever. And outside of this, I love traveling, exploring new places, connecting with people, and spending time with friends and family. Now, quickly get into the topic which we will be discussing today, right? So before I start the topic, I just like to throw a quotation by Shiv Khera. Professionalism is not the job you do, it's how you do the job. So it's important that the job which we are into, that how we do it. We all might have skill set which might have been taught in our colleges and schools, right? But there are a lot of nuances which we need to look at when we are into a job. So we will be discussing that during this session. And to discuss this topic, we have in the studio Joshua. So before we get on to Joshua, I would first quickly would like to introduce him to everyone. So he's a result-driven logistics leader with a proven track record of leading business transformations and driving strong business performances. He has worked in a number of countries such as Singapore, China, Indonesia, and the Netherlands. But currently he's based in Singapore and working with a Fortune 500 company where he is leading an integration management office for one of the largest acquisitions in the recent years in the transportation and logistics industries. I would like to welcome Joshua for further discussions. Welcome to the show, Joshua.
Thank you, Abhishek.
So before we get into the topic, professionalism, would you like us to take us through to your career trajectory?
Sure. So I've now worked for 19 years, of which 15 of those years have been with the same Fortune 500 MNC in the shipping and logistics industry. I've been very lucky in the sense that this company is quite large, and so I've worked in different brands, different organizations, and functions within the same group. And each role has been a very different experience from the previous one. So I first started my career in Singapore in 2004 in a 2-year management trainee program. During these 2 years, I rotated across 3 roles in 2 different organizations within the company. These roles were a mix of local and regional roles as well. And then after this, I went on my first expatriation to Beijing in China, where
nice.
I lived. Yeah, it was a great experience. And I lived and worked there for almost 2 years. And that's where I worked on the imports trade into the Greater China area. These first few years were when I really built my exposure to what it is to work and excel in the working world, looking at others around me and learning from them to better improve myself. I then left the company and the industry, and I worked in an SME for 4 years. This was during, I worked in the IT industry, and this was in the immediate aftermath of the 2008 global financial crisis. It was a really tough time. So I learned to be agile, to be hungry, and really to put in 200%. After 4 years of that, I moved back to the corporate world in the same Fortune 500 MNC. And I took on a role responsible for the P&L, right, the profit and loss of our intra-Asia network. I did that for a few years. I went to Indonesia. I led a team and a function there before becoming country MD for the organization for 3 years. After that, I took on a new challenge in the Netherlands, where I was the regional head for 3 different teams. That was when I had a really good experience leading a very diverse team. We had 13 nationalities across the teams, and where we built, a very engaged and very high-performing team. Since the start of this year, I moved back to Singapore, and now I'm the integration management office lead for a multi-billion-dollar acquisition. And I'm looking forward to us, successfully integrating the company into the parent company.
Thanks, Joshua, for sharing that. Quite insightful that how you have witnessed and looked at different parts of your career in different countries. So thanks for sharing that. So now let's get back to this topic, because this topic is very near to my heart in terms of professionalism, that how one can get some good insights from our experiences in the corporate life, right?
Yes.
So if you have to define professionalism, and how you will define it?
That's a great question, Abhishek. To me, professionalism is the marriage of two different aspects. One being your state of mind, the want and the commitment to deliver results.
Mm-hmm.
And two, to exceed the expectations of the role that you play. Now, you'll notice that I specifically mentioned the expectations of the role that you play. And to me, this is very important. There are many people who have high personal standards, work extremely hard, and they strive to do the very best. However, if their efforts are not aligned with what is expected of them, then they may end up not being very professional at all. So let's use an example.
Mm-hmm.
If you are a salesperson and your job is to sell and to exceed your sales targets, then that's the base requirement that you're expected to deliver. If you fail to achieve that, and instead you spend most of your time and your effort on, say, developing the best sales material or writing the most professional sounding emails, then you're not delivering what the organization needs of you, right?
Yeah.
And you're not being very professional at your job. So that to me is the starting point. Once you're clear on what the expectations are of your role, then the want and the commitment to exceed those expectations will drive you to seek and to build the soft and the hard skills that you need to do your best. So that's my view on that.
Great. No, absolutely. So if I look at professionalism, it's, as I stated the quotation, right? It's how you do the work. As you said, there is a minimum basic requirement, right, which you have to deliver as your job profile. But then how you deliver that's a professionalism to me.
That's exactly
right. So it's important that you look at those small nitty-gritties, which sometimes we think that we know those, but we forget when we put it into application.
Yeah.
So that's where I think we will need a lot of help sometimes when we start our career, right? So that's important. Moving on from here, right? So you might have mentors in your career, right? And sometimes when you're starting your job, there are some mentors who are there, but unknowingly there. So you don't know them, they are mentoring you and they are guiding you throughout the process, but they are there.
Yeah.
So do you have such mentors, and how much importance you have given to professionalism at the start of your career?
So, yes, there were. So I think looking back, I've learned from every leader that I worked for and with many peers that I've worked with. And these learnings came from observing and from learning from the strengths of these people. And also from my leaders and peers, right, who have proactively given me feedback on what I did well and what I could improve on. So if I think back to specific people, there was one leader that I worked with. I admired what he accomplished, his want to always do better and his drive for success for the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And this gained him a lot of respect from others in the organization. I also felt that he and I had similar values and ways of thinking, right? And so I always looked at how he worked, how he thought, how he approached these issues. And I would always challenge myself to improve and to be able to do what he did. If he thought of an angle that I didn't, I would then go, okay, I must learn from this, right? For the future.
Yeah.
And he was always very kind and, he shared a lot with me. So I learned a lot from him there. Another mentor that maybe unknowingly influenced me was a peer that I worked with in the same kind of role.
Mm-hmm.
I learned from him that there isn't just one way of getting to professionalism. He was very, very different from me. I was very detail-oriented. He was not.
Okay.
I would always analyze very deeply to get a good grasp. He would look at things and go, yeah, this is how it should be, right? And so, our approaches when working with other people was also very different. But when it came to the commitment and the want to deliver, I realized that we were both just as committed, right? And we were able to meet and exceed the expectations of us. So that to me was a very important learning. Professionalism doesn't just come in one form.
Mm-hmm.
There are many different ways to get there, but it really comes down to having the want, the commitment, right? To really deliver above and beyond the expectations of you. So yeah, those are two different people that have impacted me, I think, and have really mentored me in that way, knowingly and unknowingly.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. even I can now relate back when I started my career, right? You have one assigned mentor, right? Those who's your counselor, who's your buddy, and who will help you out through your career trajectory.
Yes.
But then there are a lot of people around you whom you look up to because they are thorough professional, how they do it. Everyone loves them, right?
Yeah.
And that's also very important in an organization, in a corporate world, that you follow people whom loved by everyone, because there's something different which they are doing and you can learn a lot from them.
Yes.
And that's what I have done. That how they are responding to their emails, how they are behaving in a corporate environment, how they are approaching the different meetings. So there's a lot to learn from people around us. We cannot be closed that, oh, my counselor will only mentor me. I have to open my eyes and see what's around me in a corporate world.
I fully agree, right? And I think it's very important to widen your network so you come into contact with all these different people. I mean, you'll always be able to learn from best practices.
Yeah.
And I think you can also learn from the challenges that they face. And that's how you kind of grow as a person. I think you've previously shared with me too that this is, you've got a very wide network. And I think that's probably how you've been able to grow yourself too.
Absolutely. That's an important part of it. And that's what we have covered in my first episode. So people can go back and look at those episodes. Okay. So if I will say that you have to pick up 4 or 5 professional traits, what you have followed, or maybe what our audience can benefit from it, right? What are those 4 or 5 traits which you have lived in your professional career?
So I think to start off, as I mentioned earlier, the right attitude, right? So having the want and the commitment to deliver the results and, to identify and prioritize the expectations of the person is a very good starting point. On top of this, then I think there are certain characteristics that will help, anyone actually work well in different roles, environments, in different cultures. One, I think, is integrity. So being honest, living by a code of ethics, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's a very good start to gaining people's trust when you do things in an ethical way. I think having a can-do attitude, having optimism, right, and embracing challenges and opportunities, that is a very good way of approaching problems that will come. Respect. I think being able to treat others with dignity, with courtesy, with kindness as well, that goes a long way to working with others and respecting different opinions and perspectives. I think being solution-focused. There are many people with the best intentions, right? But if they can't come to a solution to a problem, that is an issue. So I think that is a very strong trait as well. And last but not least, I think being open to feedback and wanting to improve oneself, to actively ask others for feedback, to be humble enough, right, to accept both the positive and the negative feedback and to want to improve yourself. So yeah, those are the traits, I think. Well, what about you? I mean, do you see other traits that should be looked at and considered as well?
I think you have covered a lot of those attributes which we will be covering in this series.
Yeah,
so,
perfect.
So those are absolutely important and spot on. But another 2 things which I think helps you to be a better professional is you have to be consistent enough, right? Because sometimes we are not consistent. One day we are delivering great quality, we are on top of our game, but next day we are not. So it needs to be consistently driven, consistently deliver, and that is one of the additional aspects which I can add into it, right? And absolutely integrity, respect, and helping others is also professionalism. I can just throw an example, right? So sometimes it happens that you're on a project team, right? And you have 3-4 people working and you have a family emergency and a deliverable needs to go out. So before you approach your manager that, oh, I have to go back to home because of XYZ reason, then have you identified a person who will deliver on behalf of you? Right? Yeah. That's a solution orientation, which you said, right?
Yes, exactly.
Did you already looked up to a person? And if that person is ready to help you, right, there is a respect. There is a trust between these 2 people. And if on some day he or she needs help, then he can back up you, right? So that's very important for me.
It is a very important point.
Yes. So thanks. Do you have any real life examples of where you saw someone succeeded or do well in their career, primarily because of how professional they are?
Yes. I think the examples of the mentors that I gave earlier, they're all folks who are doing well in their careers. And they each have a very strong personal brand of professionalism. If I think about the different countries and the different cultures that I've lived and worked in, I think being seen as a professional person who always strives for and is able to exceed expectations is always a good indicator for success.
Yeah.
Good leaders often want to bring in the best people to their teams, right? They can deliver the best possible results, and professionalism is a very good indicator for potential success. Now, being good at your job is very important for your career. I'd also say it's equally important to ensure that your leader and the organization is aware that you are good at your job too.
Yeah.
In short, you need to have visibility. But I think that may be another topic for another episode of Wisdom Whispers.
Great. I can relate to it, because sometimes what happens is as a professional, as a corporate professional, we tend to forget these smaller aspects, and we think that we are professional, but sometimes we are not. Let's take a very, very small examples like responding to emails.
Yes.
And we all get hundreds of emails. Yeah. Absolutely. Not every email needs to be responded, but those emails which are required to be responded, if you are responding on time and your manager does not have to follow up, then it's a professionalism. That's a very small bit of it, right? But a lot of us tend to ignore such emails, and
yes.
our manager follows up. And then it pinch to a manager. And manager will have that on the back of their mind that, I have to follow up with Abhishek, that, why you have not responded on this email, which is required, right?
Yes.
So it's important for me. So I can relate to these things. Great. Moving on a very sensitive topic here when we talk about professionalism is that how important is an emotional quotient as a key trait in professionalism?
Extremely. No one works in silos, right? And I think having a high EQ is essential in ensuring that you can work well with others. No matter where you are in your career, you will always need to work with others. You will always need to influence others with your ideas, to maintain relationship with stakeholders, to manage your emotions in a positive way, to have empathy, right? And to understand where others are coming from, and to be able to manage conflict. So, and all these are linked to having a high EQ. So yes, I agree. Having, a high emotional quotient and the ability to deal with that is super important.
Great. Because we are not dealing with computers. We are dealing with humans.
Not, right? It's interpersonal relationships that we work with.
I think I can very easily relate back to one of the traits which you started on professionalism is respect.
Yes.
Right? That's come with, if a person has high EQ, the person will be more respectful to others, person will understand their feelings, because as a professional, you are not working alone.
No.
And you have to have been working in a teams. So it's important that you understand each one of us as a team member and what are the different traits of every individual. Because I think you can relate to it because you have worked in an environment where there are people coming from different countries.
Yes.
And every country, they have their own upbringing, right? They have their own culture. And you need to respect each and everything of that, because otherwise you will drop that EQ, right? And then you might not be able to get best from the team. So
actually, I've been reading a book recently on, working with people of different cultures, and it's actually gotten me to think back and to reflect on the experiences that I've had. And I think it's really not easy. Everyone, first of all, within the same culture, everyone has a different upbringing. Everyone has different value systems, right? So working with that already is not so easy. When you work with people from different cultures, then, the different social norms and different values come into play. So I agree with you. I think coming back to having respect for others, respect for different opinions, is a very good starting point. So moving on, would you like to share any tips to practice professionalism at work? Yes. So professionalism is most definitely a journey, not a destination. Yes. I believe it requires lifelong learning, a lot of practice and improvement. But I think there are some tips and strategies that can help enhance professionalism. So I think first off, if you quickly identify what is expected of you in your role, this comes from talking to your leader, talk to your peers. And I think knowing this will allow you to identify the base focus of what you need to deliver and to exceed. Over time, build an understanding as well of how your role contributes to the big picture of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
What happens before you? What happens in the process after you? What is the impact on the organization if you do well? Right? So that's a good starting point. I think it's also important to seek feedback and guidance. It can be from your managers, from your mentors, your peers, and use this to analyze your strengths, your weaknesses, and to really, improve your skills. Another would be read books, read articles, watch videos like Wisdom Whispers. And I think listen to podcasts, right? They can inspire you, they can inform you, and it can challenge you to grow. It's important as well to seek a mentor or a coach. This can help support you. They can advise you, they can motivate you to achieve your goals, to improve your professionalism, right? And I think at times, if you can't find a leader who can mentor you, it is also good to look to peers that you think of as role models, right? You can look at their strengths and try and learn from that. You can also look at the challenges that they face and see how you can learn from that.
Picking up one point from our discussion is mentor, right? So is it necessarily required that mentor needs to be from the same organization, from the same industry, or it can be from anyone, right? Anywhere?
I actually encourage having mentors outside of your company and even outside of your industry. I think as a starting point, it is very good to have a mentor within the same organization if you can, because then they understand the environment that you're working in and they can give you very clear and immediate tips, right, to help guide you. But I think across different industries, there are different skill sets and different priorities. And I think having a mentor outside of your industry can help to bring in a lot of new ideas and new ways of thinking that you may not get in your immediate environment. So I definitely recommend that. And when I look back to the different mentors that I've had, I've definitely learned a lot from mentors outside of the industry that I work in.
That's good to know, because even I believe in that. Having a mentor, it's not that mentor needs to be older than you.
No.
Because a mentor can be younger than you. And you should have one mentor who's younger than you, because then you get to see the world from a different angle. We are getting older day by day. So we should have someone who can guide us, who can challenge us. That's important, because sometimes challenging us with the status quo is very important. And that's what even I try to do in my job. That's very important. And to me, how someone can practice professionalism, it's like the very, very baby steps, right? Be on time. Deliver your deliverable on time, which you have committed. So that's, if you are working on a timeline, then deliver it on that time. Yeah. These are very small baby steps, but this will help you, right? Yeah. Ethics. Are you ethical in the approach which you are doing things, right? And also, are you staying positive in your attitude? Because sometimes people say, oh, I can't do it. Why? This can be done, right? Anything in this world is not possible. Everything is possible. Yeah. So you have to look at things one by one, and you have to follow this. And one larger aspect which I can relate to it is living the values of the company, right? Because primarily all the multinational corporations, every company, they have certain values in the organization. And if you are able to live those values, then professionalism will be in place, right?
I agree with you with finding alignment in values with the company that you work in. Because I think when you are able to find that good fit, and it's not going to be 100% fit.
Yeah.
If the majority of the values speak to you, then I think, living the values in what you do would result also in being professional within that environment. And it will actually help you feel a lot more comfortable in work that you do. I think on the flip side, at the same time, if your values and the organization's values don't naturally match, then it might be a good idea to look for an organization where it does match. And then it would be a good fit both for the organization and also for you as an individual.
Absolutely. You picked up a very good point. Like, they should marry each other.
Yes.
Right? That's most important. And if they are married, like if your values and company values are aligned, then you will feel happy at work. And that is one of the key traits of being professional, right?
Exactly.
If you're happy, you will be able to deliver better. Great. With that, I will relax it now. So there are a lot of discuss around professionalism. At last, I would just like to put up a quote in front of every one of us is by Julius Irving. Being a professional is doing the things that you love to do on the days you don't feel like doing them, right? And that's what the gist of the entire conversation, right? So thanks a lot, Joshua, for a great discussion on this. With this, we'll move on to the last section of this discussion is Unwind. So let's move on to the last section where we'll get to know more of you. Our Unwind section. We'll talk less about professionalism. We talk more about Joshua, right? So that's what our audience would also like to know more of you. And it's rapid fire. So let's try to see how many questions we can tackle, right? One app that you use for work or to improve productivity or for your personal use.
Yeah. I won't name the app. Some years back, I started using a task management app.
Okay.
That has been a very important positive change in my life, I think. So I think, in the past, I'd keep a lot of my tasks in my head, right? And I think being human, I would end up, maybe being delayed on the third of these. But once I could get a computer, an app to remember those for me, I got a lot better at, actually delivering the task on time.
Oh.
And I think that's helped me become a lot more reliable. And it adds into the personal brand that I try and build up. So yeah.
Great. That's lovely. One advice you want to give to a 20-year-old yourself?
Okay. So I think if I were to look back at me 20 years ago, I would be conscious of the personal brand that I was building, but also to know that there are many routes, many different doors to get to professionalism. I would remind myself to get feedback from the right people, right? And not just leaders alone, right? People from peers, from leaders, from people who work with you.
Yeah.
And I would advise myself to have grit and to have perseverance. Because I think the journey is not always easy.
Yeah.
You will go through tough times. And I think having grit and perseverance is probably a good way to ensure you have stamina to go, to better yourself through your career. Last but not least, make friends, to build my network and to have fun doing what I do. Yeah.
Good. I know that you love playing golf, right? How much?
I love it. I'm not so good at it, but I love it.
Okay. So how much time you're often able to dedicate towards this, right? My primary question behind this is like how you manage your professional and personal life and how you entertain yourself, right? Because I know that you love playing golf. You don't get time enough to do it, but still.
I think it's important not to be totally consumed with work. Because I think, we all need to ensure that we have a certain amount of a healthy balance of personal time and me time, if you will, away from work. In my case now, I have 2 young children, right? And so family time is very important to me. So I think if I prioritize, I think, especially on the weekdays, then that's very much focused on work. I try and find time outside of the working hours to spend as much time with the family as possible. But then on the weekends, I do try and squeeze a little bit of time on golf, right? I think priorities may change depending on which stage of your life you are in. But at this stage of life, then golf is slightly lower priority than some of the others.
Okay.
But maybe 10 years from now or 20 years, then it might be a different priority.
Absolutely. This keeps on changing, right?
Yes.
So if you have to pick up one person's brain, who that person will be?
So this is where I'm very proud and patriotic Singaporean. I would very much want to pick the brain of Lee Kuan Yew. Right? He's no longer with us, but he's one person who had a very profound impact on Singapore, and particularly, in bringing Singapore from a very different place to where it is now. And I think I would love to be able to understand what he thought, right? What he went through and his learnings. And maybe to get his advice on some of the challenges that we face in our careers as well.
The vision he had for Singapore, right? What we see today is a lot because of him.
A lot of it is because of him, right? So he's clearly someone who's been very successful at what he set out to do. And I'd be very keen to learn from that.
Yep. Great. That's one of the good choices. So, what is the most important lesson you have learned over your career?
Be happy. And I think at different stages of your life, happiness means different things. I don't think there's just one facet, right? We're talking about professionalism today, and work and career is important, and that's very clear. But I think it's important for us to identify the different facets of our life and how we can be happy in the facets that are most important to us. That's probably the biggest learning that I have so far.
That's awesome.
What about you, Abhishek?
For me as well, I think enjoy the life. So it's similar to you. Be happy. For me, it's, am I able to enjoy the life or not? Right? There are a lot of things which our parents might not have been able to do it in their career, in their life, because they were struggling, they were raising us up, right? But now the things are different. The world has moved on to a different trajectory and we have so many things to do. I just try to be like happy, enjoy the life. That's what my biggest learning is. So one last question before we wrap it up. How would your loved one describe what you do? And that's a very tricky question because if you will ask my parents, they might not be able to describe it.
So I think if you ask my kids what they see every day, then they'll see that I'm in meetings the whole day. So that's probably what they think I do, just talk. I remember my wife describing to them that because I work in logistics, that I do my part in helping people get the things that they need wherever they are in the world. And I think that's a very nice, it's a very nice motivation to go to work and to feel like, yes, I'm able to have an impact on larger society. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. So that was such a great discussion, Joshua. I think if our audience needs to connect with you, what would be the best way to connect with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm on LinkedIn, right? Look for Joshua Ng there. I think you'll be able to find me. And I'd be very happy to connect.
Great. Thanks. That's great. I can say, though it looks like we know everything, what we have been discussing, there are a lot of people will say, we know that. But application of that, which is very important. So I think that will be the key of our discussion. And thanks a lot for being here.
I don't think there's any point that anyone feels that they have gotten there. It's really a lifelong journey, right? And like you said, application is key. Consistency, application, right? And just kind of doing it day after day to always want to better yourself. I hope I've been able to help someone, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Sharing my experiences and my thoughts. And thank you so much for having me again.
Thank you. Thanks, Joshua.
Thank you.
So this was our second episode with Joshua about what does it mean to be professional, or in short, what is professionalism? We discussed quite a few things, but 2-3 aspects which hit me today was like, you need to do certain job and how you do it, that's very important. The things which you need to look at going forward and try to embed in your professional life is being respectful, being ethical, and keep seeking feedback so that you keep learning new things. We will keep bringing you some more of these food for thoughts conversation. If you enjoyed this episode, do let us know. Also, if you have a feedback or want us to pick up a certain topic, reach out to us on Gmail, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Also, do remember to share with your friends, family, and colleagues. And also do like, subscribe to us if you are watching it on YouTube, follow us if you are listening to this on an audio platform. Thank you.